Good evening. I'd like to call to order this county board meeting, Thursday, June 20th, exactly 7 p.m. Would you please have a roll call?
Maxwell.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Michaels. Mitchell.
Here.
Petrie.
Here.
Quisenberry. Richards.
Here.
Rosales.
Here.
Schrader.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
Bergson.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Coert.
Present.
Esri.
Here.
Harper.
Here.
Harkey.
Here.
James.
Here.
Jay.
Here.
Kibler.
Here.
Langenheim. Kurtz.
Here. Thank you. Let's move on to our prayer. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I please have notice of the meeting?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on June 20th, 2013 at 7 p.m. in the Lyle Shields Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Thank you. I'd like a motion. I'm sorry. What's that? I need a motion to approve. Can I have a motion to approve the notice of the meeting, please? Mr. Carter and Mr. Rosales. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion for approval of the agenda and addenda, please. So moved by Ms. Cowart and Mr. Richards. Any changes to the agenda? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We have the date and time of the next regular meeting, standing committees and committee of the whole, and I'm asking for a motion for the adoption of Resolution 8562, amending the County Board calendar of meetings for 2013. So moved by Mr. James, second by Mr. Esri. Any questions, concerns, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion. I'm sorry. Did I hear a no? Thank you. Okay. County Board, Tuesday, June 25th, and the next meeting's Thursday, July 18th, 7 p.m. regular meeting. Consent agenda. Ms. Petrie has asked to pull number 7 from policy from the consent agenda, and on your desk you will have the resolution corrected in the orange sheet for that resolution, which will come up in policy. Okay, we have that. Any other removal of consent agenda? If not, I need a roll call. Mr. Thank you. Move for the consent agenda. Roll call. Mr. Kibler. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Maxwell.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mitchell. Mitchell.
Max?
Yes.
Thank you.
Petrie. Richards.
Yes.
Rosales.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Schwartz. Alex.
Yes.
Bergson.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Coert.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
Hartkey.
Yes. Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Kibler,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes. Thank you. Public participation. Just a reminder, there is a 5-minute limit for each of the public who wish to speak, and we have 1 hour total time for public participation, which will end at 5 after 8, if it goes that long. First up is Ms. Vicky Niswander. Turn on your microphone, please, right in front of you. Hit the middle button.
Got it.
You got it. Thank you.
My name is Vicki Nicewander, and I am from Mahomet, Illinois. I am speaking to the issue of the additional members for the Developmental Disabilities Board. I have, over the years, attended almost all of the DD board meetings. I have also served on a number of boards of directors, and I currently work for an organization that has a board of directors that is my boss. In my experience with the boards, I have found that the more people that are on the board, within limits, is a much more effective way of managing a board. You have more ideas, you have a broader range of experiences and knowledge, and I think it can only improve the quality of decisions that the board makes. So I encourage you to vote yes on expanding the board to 5 members.
Thank you. Ms. Jennifer Knapp?
Hi, Jennifer Knapp, resident of Champaign, and I am executive director of an organization called Community Choices. We represent 55 families who have individuals with developmental disabilities. And just coming also to speak in asking you to vote in favor of the expansion for the DD board. There's diverse ideas, diverse interests, and I think having 5 people will be able to better represent the diversity of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linda Tortorelli?
Hello, my name is Linda Tortorelli. I'm a resident of Champaign. I too support the expansion of the board, of the DD board, from 3 to 5 members. As we've discussed before, I think it helps increase diversity of opinion. The disability community is a very diverse population and has different ideas about how they would like to receive their supports and services, and I think we can increase that diversity of opinion by expanding, and I think Mr. Kurtz has shown good judgment in appointing Sue Suter to the DD board in helping to move towards diversity in that area. I think we've also heard from people that the whole community considers experts on this topic. Mr. Peter Tracy, Mr. Michael Smith, the president of the board, Joyce Still. You don't get more expert than those individuals about issues of the DD board. They have been here since their inception, and they're in support as well. So I encourage you to also support the expansion, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Amy Armstrong?
Good evening. My name is Amy Armstrong. I am a Champaign resident. I also have a child who is severely and profoundly delayed and will be in my care for all of my life, or in someone else's care for all of her life. She will require 100% support all of her life. So this Developmental Disabilities Board that we're speaking to, or in encouraging you to increase the board size from 3 to 5, it's an extremely important board for my life and my child's life, and that financial support is incredibly important. My child is currently 7 years old. I'm frankly at ground zero compared to a lot of other folks that I deal with. But I have my ear to the ground. I know a lot of what's going on in our communities, what families need, what children want, what children need, and what adults want, and what services and supports they really would like to see. And it's very diverse. And the life and the current situation with disability, it's changing, and it's changing rapidly, and it's changing in favor of our children and the older citizens, to give them choices, to give them a very much a person-centered planning, which is where I really want to see my child having a choice for what is best for her. And increasing this board will bring diversity, a lot of different ideas, and a lot of different hope and choices for families within the community. So I strongly encourage you to consider increasing the board. And thank you.
Mr. Pat Fitzgerald, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I appear before you tonight on behalf of Park Hill Enterprises and TriStar Marketing. I'm here to address any questions any of you may have when you consider the adoption of ordinance number 927. It's dealing with the rezoning of land near Mahomet, Illinois. Thank you.
There are no questions during public participation, but we may ask you to stay in case there is a question for you during the resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Peter Tracy.
Good evening. I'm Peter Tracy, a resident of Champaign, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mental Health Board and the Developmental Disabilities Board. These are very interesting and challenging times in the field of intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. Against the backdrop of the state cuts, which have been ongoing since FY09, and the delayed payments that our providers in this community get from the state, or eventually get from the state, there are incredible changes happening. There are changes in employment laws related to people with disabilities. The LIGA's consent decree has to do with bringing people back to our community and making sure that we have adequate housing and supports for people that have developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. There's also an increased emphasis on self-determination for people to actually, through person-centered planning, determine where they go with their lives. And these are all huge changes. And then we also have administrative changes that are happening at the state level. The expansion of Medicaid, which is happening related to the Affordable Care Act, and the shift in funding for people with disabilities to Medicaid, which is really changing the whole landscape of what's happening. The expansion of the board will support increased diversity of opinion. It will broaden community representation, and it will, this is my selfish reason, it will, I think, improve the operation of the board. I can tell you that I support it, the staff of the board support it, the Mental Health Board, the DD Board, and community stakeholders support the increase. So I ask you to give it very serious consideration, and I thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Ms. Sue Suter.
Hi, my name is Sue Suter, and I appreciate being here tonight. I'm a resident of Urbana. I'm fairly new to Champaign-Urbana. I am familiar with the community. I went to school here, and I've worked in local, state, and federal disability issues for my entire career. So I can bring a little bit of that perspective, national and state. Since I've been here, I've been in awe of the individuals in the community that have reached out to me. The families, individuals with disabilities, other community members, service providers, and I've been amazed at their commitment, their desire, their passion, and their tireless efforts to bring supports and services and choices to the individuals with disabilities in Champaign-Urbana. I'm here to urge you to support the expansion of the board. As I think you heard last week, we had tremendous applicants for the board, for the DD board, which is an honor to the county board, to the DD board, in the disability community, because it shows the interest and the passion and the time people are willing to take to address these issues that Peter talked about, and the interest and expertise. We have people, I can tell you, we have people in this room tonight here who you've heard speak, who are national experts, recognized national experts in the field of developmental disabilities. How lucky are we to have that in the community? I urge you to expand the board. I want to tell you how much we appreciate your interest in the disability community. By expanding the board, you've heard about the mechanics and the very real limitations of a three-person board. You've heard that eloquently, so I won't talk about that. But I just urge you to expand the board so we can take advantage of the expertise and the commitment and the passion of the community here in Champaign-Urbana. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Ms. Pam Classert?
I have a little cheat sheet here because I'm not used to speaking in front of crowds. Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. My name is Pam Classert, and I work for PACE.
Could you speak further into the microphone, please? Thank you.
And I work for PACE, which is an agency, it's an advocacy agency for people with disabilities. Specifically, my position is for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm also a mom with a son with an intellectual disability. Although I'm an Illinois native, my son had the good fortune of growing up in a state where the mission statement on the website of the Department of Human Services for Developmental Disabilities used language such as exemplifies inclusive practices, be provided the opportunity to be gainfully employed, and be provided the opportunity to make informed choices about his or her life. As Illinois moves out of the dark ages, it's interesting to note that that mission statement was written in 1996. That's almost 20 years ago. I never set out to be an advocate. I just realized that because of my background in a different state, that I have a different paradigm and a different cultural experience with developmental disabilities. I'd like to see the board expanded because as Illinois moves forward with more diverse services and what are very new philosophies for a lot of people, and also there's new mandated legislation. So with all that going on, I think that we need a board that can talk to each other, value, and realize meaningful collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in public participation? No? Okay. I will close that session right now. Thank you. We'll move to communications. Is there any from the board? Ms. Petrie?
Just a reminder, besides the fact that we have a study session next Tuesday, before the study session, the Soil and Water Conservation Service of Champaign County is bringing the rain simulator that will be out in the parking lot areas so we all can have a chance to see what rain does to our various surfaces here in the county and appreciate how interesting it is to see visually through this mechanism that the Conservation Association has and will be bringing to us. It'll be here from 3:30 to 6. So if you plan to be here for a study session, come a few minutes early so you can see and see the rain simulator.
Thank you. I have a few announcements. Ms. Michaels, Mr. Quisenberry, and Mr. Langenheim have asked to be excused from tonight's meeting for the record. Also, for the record, I have two letters, one from Ms. Linda Tortorelli and one from Mr. Dale Morrissey, Chief Executive Officer of Developmental Services Center, are both in support of the expansion to 5 from the DD Board, and I'd like to put that on for the record. Thank you. Is there any other communication from the board at this time? I will move forward. I'd like a motion for approval of the minutes of May 23rd, 2013, Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Carter. Any discussion or changes on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We move to number 9, and Mr. Scott Giemer with the Nursing Home Quarterly Report.
I got that.
I'm sorry, Scott.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm going to talk about 3 items: census, financial position, and cash position. First is census. So hopefully you can see this. And our census, this census goes back to December of 2011. And the last point that you see on the very right of the chart is not June census, but the census as of June 14, 2013, which is 188. So you can see that we have gone from a high of 212 in the month of October, which was an all-time high for the new facility. But unfortunately, we've dropped down as of May to 179. And again, I'll go into a little more details in a couple other slides of what's going on there. So, but what you can see is we've got I'm going to call this a cyclical trend, and I'll explain it a little later why I believe that. And it kind of mirrors what we've seen between January of 2012 through the spring and into the summer of 2012, where you can see that we've got this dip from 200 in December 2011 down to a low of 191, and then we started increasing up to the 212 in October. And unfortunately, we're seeing another cycle, but it's a little bit steeper drop than we've seen in previous years, down to the 179. But I think in June, we're starting to see a rebound coming back up. Our Medicare average daily census for the same time period also mirrors the overall census and the fluctuations that we see. So again, we hit a high of 23.5 on average in February of 2013. We've dropped down to 12.9 in April, and we're back up to a census of 21 as of June 14th this month. So far, the census this year is averaging about 2 more residents compared to the average in 2012. So the Medicare census is very strong overall compared to last year. So what's causing the dip? So obviously, when I see that census drop, it's a concern. So what I did was track the admissions per month, going back to December of 2011, mirroring the previous slides. And so you can see that obviously we see fluctuations every month. So the story in this slide is what's the overall trend? And the overall trend is we're seeing an increase in admissions per month. So again, in December 2011, we're at 22, and in May, we're at 25. Now, on an average monthly basis in 2012, calendar year 2012, we were averaging about 22 admissions per month. So far this year, in 2013, we're averaging a little over 24 admissions per month. So again, that mirrors what we're seeing in this chart, which is an increase. So that tells me that the decline in census is not because we are not getting the referrals from the hospitals. And again, it fluctuates every month, but the majority of the admissions that we're seeing will come from one of the 2 hospitals. But we also get a fair amount of admissions directly from the community. What's causing the dip in our census is discharges. So these are people that we are sending home. So again, you can see in this chart, we are seeing an uptrend in the discharges for the same time period. And what we've seen on an average monthly basis in 2012, we were averaging about 15 discharges per month. We are now averaging in 2013 about 18 discharges per month. So in the short term, it's not good for the census because we're sending people home. But that's a good thing from a quality of care standpoint. And that's what the hospitals want to see, that's what the health plans want to see. So on a long-term trend, in terms of working with the other providers in the marketplace, that's what they want to see. And again, we don't choose and pick our admissions. We don't select those that are going to go home versus those that will become long-term residents, whether they're private pay or Medicaid. So we basically will take Medicare if we know we can take care of them. So in any given month, you're always going to have a percentage of residents that go home and some that will become permanent residents. Now, if I could write my ticket, I would like half of the people going home and half the people staying so I can keep my overall census up. But unfortunately, so far in 2013, we've been doing a good job of sending people home. So if you take a look at the month of September, let's see, can I back up? So in September of 2012, we had 26 admissions, but we had only 8 discharges, and that's what really started our significant increase in census. So far this month, we had 17 admissions by the 14th of June. So we are definitely going to exceed our monthly average for this month. And so we were up to 188 as of last Friday. Today we're at 186. We sent about 4 people home, but we got 2 admissions. So if we can stay the course this month and see an uptake or keep seeing the amount of admissions that we're seeing and keep the discharges intact, then we'll start seeing the census go up. But I truly believe that we are just in a cyclical phase and this is not a permanent position that we're seeing with our census. But again, only time will tell.
God, just a quick question.
Yes.
Since you brought up Medicare, on your discharges, since we're talking about admissions and discharges, on your discharges, are the majority of discharges the Medicare patients who are going home? Or is it private pay? What's the separation there?
It's a high percentage of Medicare. So we've been seeing a lot of short-term rehab patients, and a lot of those would be orthopedics. All right, moving on to financial position. And so what I've got in this chart is basically the net cash that we're seeing on a monthly basis. And again, it's for the period December 2011 through our most recent financials, which is April of this year. So again, this is adding back depreciation or taking that depreciation out of the expenses. And what was the net cash that was generated or net cash loss for the month. So again, you can see we've had a fair amount of fluctuation on a monthly basis. In December of 2011, we had a net cash gain of $94,000, dropped down to basically a loss of about $5,000, $4,000, and $5,500 in March and April through May of 2012. In December of 2012 is when we had a high census of over 200. And our Medicare was pretty strong at about 21, and we actually had a net cash gain of $140,000 for that month. But again, with the census decline that we've seen so far this year, we've seen net cash losses, except in the month of February. And again, the last month in April that we have financials for, we had a net loss of $51,000. Contract nursing, this is one chart that I'm always showing you because I know it's always been a big issue. We continue to see a decline in our use of agency staff. In April, we haven't broken or gone below 30,000, but we're getting really close. So in April, we had a total of about $32,000 in agency expenses. And again, we've come a long way from what you can see all the way back in 2009, where we were averaging well over $150,000 in agency costs per month. So, and again, I know I've said this before, can I get it down to 0? I'm not going to say that we will, but we're definitely moving in that direction. And again, we're at the point where we're going to see probably smaller decrease if at all possible. But again, If I compare this to our overall salary expenses, and taking a look at our FTEs, we are seeing an increase in the number of employed personnel at the facility. So we've been filling a lot of traditionally open positions that we've seen, and we've also seen a decrease in our turnover, especially with our CNAs. So again, all of positive trends that we're seeing in terms of our staffing. What's our overall cash position? This is updated, this chart that you've seen previously. So in April, our cash balance was just over $1 million. And as you can see, going all the way back to December of 2011, we've been fluctuating pretty steadily, just below or above $1 million. The red line is our accounts receivable. We are at roughly $3.69 million in April, and our accounts payable is at about $1.49 million. So again, I want to point out that our payables at the highest point was back in December of 2011. We were at $3.6 million, and at that point, we were roughly averaging about 12 months out on receivables. So we have significantly decreased our accounts payable, and we're pretty much at a low point since then. And on average, we're probably about 60 days out on our payables. And we are working, we basically have 2 vendors left that we've been paying late payment interest payments on, and that would be for our rehab provider and for one of the staffing agencies, and we're working to get that down. So we've actually been able to get our payables back down to almost where they're current.
Mr. Kibler?
Hi, Mr. Gima. Just a quick clarification. In the previous slide, you'd mentioned that we were down about $50,000 month over month. But in this chart, it shows
that there hasn't been much change in our cash position. And again, because things like payables, receivables, and other cash items all have a bearing on there. So even though we lost $51,000 for the month, with everything else that's going on with cash going in and out, we hadn't had much change in our cash position for that month of April.
and these are in millions, so that's a $130,000 drop versus a $50-some-odd thousand drop on the previous slide.
Yes.
One second, Ms. Kibler, Ms. Schwartz first.
I think the cash, just to answer, I have a question too, but when he was talking about monthly cash, I think he's talking about an income net of, once you put back depreciation, so it's not really cash flows, whereas here it's a real cash flow. So
Yeah,
they're
it's kind
close, but they're not exactly, and I think that.
Thank you,
so
Rachel,
it's-
yes.
So the numbers are fine, I mean, they're correct, but using the term cash is not accurate. Can I ask a question? You were talking a while ago about writing off receivables. The receivables here are after that write-off, or is that before?
Yes, they've been
So
corrected
this
for
is
the
already
write-off of the
net,
receivables.
so this is real receivables we expect to collect at this point?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so what's going on with Medicare and Medicaid? I've actually had good news with Medicare. I know I keep saying that don't expect any Medicare rate increases. Well, guess what? We expect to see a 1.4% increase in our Medicare rates effective October 1st of 2013. The state just passed legislation. It was Amendment to Senate Bill 26 that was passed a couple of weeks ago, and it implements the new Medicaid rate system for nursing homes across the state, and it will start on January 1st of 2014. It will be a 2-year phase-in period. When it is fully funded in 2015, we'll see roughly an increase of $300,000 annually in additional Medicaid revenue. The phase-in period will be, we're going to get 88% of the increase in 2014 and 100% of the increase in 2015. And again, that $300,000 is based on our current Medicaid days, and so depending on how that fluctuates, we'll change that number. But the moral to this story is the new rate system basically reflects the actual care that we're providing to our residents, and that's why we're seeing an increase in the rates. We were never receiving credit for the actual work under the old reimbursement system, and that's why we're seeing an increase. So
Mr.
we don't
Allen.
have to do anything differently.
Scott, have we seen any changes in the timing of state payments?
Next slide. Thank you, Chris. For the rest of the fiscal year, which is the next couple of weeks, I've been told that we will continue to see regular monthly payments, and we've already received our monthly payment for the month. We remain 2 to 3 months in arrears. Sometimes the state's a little bit quicker, so it's 2 months, but basically it's about a 3-month delay in payments. But it's very possible through the rest of 2013 that we will not see any payment delays over and above what we're dealing with. So we are 2 to 3 months in arrears, but we are receiving payments every month. And if that continues, we are okay. Now, again, $1 million in the bank is not a lot when we're averaging 1.2 to 1.5 million in expenses every month. But the cash flow projections currently show that we'll probably end up with a little more than $1 million by the end of the year, all things remain equal. So if the state pays us every month, we can handle being 2 to 3 months in arrears, and we could probably absorb, you know, a couple month increase in the payment delays. I mean, it helps that our payables are paid up. We'd like to keep it that way because our vendors are very happy, but we do have a little bit of flexibility there.
I'm sorry if I could follow up on that. At one point, I believe it was at the study session on this issue, we were talking about potential action at the administrative state level with regard to accelerating payments to county nursing homes. Has there been any movement on that you're aware of?
No, there hasn't been any movement on that. And again, the reason that we've been given is because we're receiving regular monthly payments, it's not going to be a high priority with all the other issues that the state is dealing with.
So it hasn't been declared dead yet, but it hasn't been passed either?
Yeah, it's just on hold.
Okay, thank you.
So to summarize, the current census decline that we're seeing, I firmly believe it's a short-term cyclical trend. Our admissions remain very solid with that slight uptrend. Our Medicare census is solid. And again, everything is, our financial position is driven by census. If we have a strong overall census and a strong Medicare census, you're going to see good financial numbers like you've seen in previous months. Any questions?
Well, thanks, Scott. We appreciate your very concise report tonight, and things are looking good right now. Chris?
Just wanted to add to that, Scott, we appreciate you providing information for the Finance Committee of the Whole each month. I think there's been a lot more discussion, you know, among the board and a lot more understanding on the part of the board as to what you're doing and what our real position is over there. So I think our comfort level has been somewhat increased as a result of that additional information. I appreciate you providing it.
And again, I would always appreciate any feedback for any additional information or that you want to receive from me. I know we've been talking with the Board of Directors. I'm going to try to pare down the information that's provided to the Board of Directors because I'm providing a 45 to 100-page report on a monthly basis. So we're going to try to do the same thing with the Board of Directors.
That's an excellent comment. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate it. Thank you for your report. All right, let's move on to the standing committees. We start off with Mr. James and Facilities.
Well, the report's in there. There's no other action.
Okay, thank you very much. Environment Land Use, Mr. Langenheim is not with us this evening, so we will have Mr. Esri, who's Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kurtz. First off, I would move to suspend the rule requiring that items must be referred by committee to the full board.
Second.
And I can speak to that if we're.
Go ahead.
Truly a staff error in that this item, ordinance number 927, didn't get before us at ELEC committee, and the purpose of bringing it before the board is to keep the petitioner from experiencing delay due to staff error. So that's the reason it didn't get through ELEC. It was a staff error. Everybody's human.
Thank you, Aaron. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else for?
So then,
Eli?
after that, I would.
Oh, I'm sorry, we
Yeah.
suspended the rules.
So
You're right.
I would move to approve ordinance number 927, amending the zoning map to change the zoning designation from Ag 2, agriculture, to B3 Highway Business Zoning District on property adjacent to 506 South Prairie View Road, Mahomet, in case 746-AM-13.
Second by John. Now, any discussion? Sorry about that. I don't see any hands up. Is anybody?
Again, it's,
Okay, Aaron?
um,
I'm looking for hands. I don't.
for those who aren't familiar, this is the mobile super pantry on Prairie View Road at
Let's
Mahomet.
vote. Okay, I thought we.
It's looking to expand it by, I believe it's in the packet, I believe it's 0.8 of an acre. It's not best prime farmland, and I believe it was unanimous that the ZBA voted to approve the rezoning, and as stated, it didn't come through ELEC. If it was through ELEC, I suspect, don't know for sure, but I imagine it would have been on the consent agenda, but that, it's before us now, so hopefully we can get this done from my standpoint.
Thank you, Aaron. We need a roll call on this, please.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Petrie?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Bergson?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harkey?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Kibler?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
And that is all from ELEC.
Thank you, Mr. Esri. Ms. Coward for Highway?
Everything for the highway is on the consent agenda, so there's nothing for board action.
Thank you, Ms. Coward. We'll move on to Finance. Mr. Alex.
Mr. Chair, I move adoption of resolution number 8532, payment of claims authorization.
Have a second? Ms. Coward, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move adoption of resolution number 8533, purchases not following the purchasing policy.
Second by Mr. Carter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move adoption of resolution number 8534, authorizing budget amendment 13-00025, transferring appropriating $11,983 from the Recorder's Automation Fund to hire a full-time employee to enable a training period before a long-time employee's retirement, as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second, Mr. Esri. Discussion? Ms. Petrie.
Yes, I move to amend this resolution to include that not only the $11,983 come out of the Recorder's Automation Fund, but also the amount to cover fringe benefits come out of the Automation Fund.
You want to repeat that motion, please, Patsy?
I'm moving to amend Resolution 8535 to read that not only the $11,983 come out of the Recorder's Automation Fund, but also the amount that would be needed to cover fringe benefits come out of the Recorder's Automation Fund.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Coward. Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion? Patsy, since it's your motion, we'll go to you first. And
Yes.
then we'll go to Mr.
May I speak to it, please? Thank you
Sure.
very much. The reason for the amendment is that I have obtained information that let me rephrase this. My major concern when this came up at the COW meeting was that this was setting precedent. I have now found out this is not the case in the county, and that there are several of our elected officials who have automation funds, that they are paying staff out of those automation funds. I have also found out that the elected officials, not every one of them, but most of them are paying the fringe benefits out of the automation fund. And it is for that reason that I propose the amendment. That seems appropriate to follow that pattern.
Well, I was going to ask this of Ms. Busey. In my mind, since my recall is that there's going to be a person retiring, and this person's going to go in and get trained to get up to speed and then take that position. I don't recall, but I don't think it's normal for that to be split like that. And then with the ongoing cost, once that person is on full-time with the salary, is that how it works? I mean, do we want to do that?
Typically, that's not how it works, and I have a concern because this is a budget amendment, and you are specifically increasing line items by specific amounts. And you cannot be non-specific. The auditor will not be able to increase the appropriation in the line items for fringe benefits in the Recorder's Automation Fund without you stating specifically how much and which line items should be increased. And without that information here this evening, I don't think that that amendment would be appropriate because it is not specific. If you want to direct the Recorder to bring back another budget amendment next month to cover those fringe benefit costs out of her automation fund, that could occur. But without knowing the line items and the amount that increase that you are directing be done, it won't happen because you don't have that information in this budget amendment. Budget amendments are very specific.
Then I guess my question is, how difficult will it be to get that specific amount?
Well, I can't do it sitting here.
No, I know that. But is that possible since we, according to what we were told at the COW meeting, it is not clear exactly when this individual will come on board. So to me, it is not clear that this $11,983, which is a budget amendment, is going to be the amount that will be needed to pay this individual because we do not know when this person is coming on board. So that is a number that's sort of been pulled out of the air. So why can't I pull out of the air a number for the fringe benefit? Because we don't know what it will be.
Well,
so how can we work on this when we don't know exactly what is going to be needed to pay this person because we don't know when the person's coming on board?
I think it's, once again, we kind of talked and touched on this with Cal. When it comes to countywide elected officials, you know, we're kind of an overseer on their budgets, but they do their own budgeting. And to sit here, like Ms. Busey said, and try and ascertain what those extra costs are, and maybe they're built into that. That would be something to ask the Recorder, but I just don't think this amendment's proper because we don't have the information. We don't have the Recorder here. And like I said, those costs might already be built into that budget amendment. We don't know that, so I think it's improper.
Jeff?
Actually, I think John said it best. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris? Pass.
Okay, then I will move to table this amendment until the July County Board meeting, since we will not be having a Oh, we can't table this. She needs to get it done.
Table requires a second. The entire thing, including that. So all right, I need a second for the table. I have a second by Mr. Carter. And if we approve the tabling, that means the whole amendment and the whole adoption of the resolution is tabled as well. That's what we'll work with, because if we take,
If you don't vote on the amendment, and you're tabling the amendment, you would have to vote on the amendment to go back to the main motion.
So if we approve this tabling, we're muting the entire resolution right now. Ms. Schwartz.
Can we maybe just withdraw that amendment and bring it back
And
up
bring
in
it back
July so we
next
can
month?
vote on this resolution and then?
I would ask Ms. Petrie to do that.
Thank you. I will withdraw the amendment.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And the second will withdraw as well. Thank you. And now we're back to the main motion of adoption of 8534. Any discussion on 8534? All in favor?
I'm sorry.
Wait, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, it's a roll, that's right, it's a roll
I'm sorry,
call.
Mr. Kurtz,
We
point
need
of,
15 votes for it.
point of order. Is there in fact, a motion to defer being made or not?
No. I don't have a motion to defer.
Her motion to amend the
She withdrew
main
all of her
motion
amendments.
was withdrawn, and no one has made a motion to table or to defer, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I only had one amendment.
She only had one amendment. And she
It was on the
withdrew.
fringe benefits.
Was there two?
She moved to table the amendment.
Well, slow down, slow down. She moved the table, and then, she moved the table with, but then you withdrew the tabling, and you withdrew the amendment. Is that correct?
I basically cannot table an amendment.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, so now I need a roll call on the adoption of 8534. Mr. Michaels, Mr. Richards.
I'm going to vote no on this, and hopefully we can bring this fixed up back next month if we vote no on this.
Thank you. And we're going to need 15 votes on this. Roll call, I'm sorry, I didn't see her hand. Ms. Coward? Yeah, you can move. You mean July meeting? Yeah, we're going to have a county board meeting. We already approved everything to go to the county board on July, in July.
Okay, July.
July. Do I have a
Until we get-
second? Do I have a second to table, to defer, in essence, this to the July county board? Second by Mr. Carter. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of deferring this to the next July meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion fails. Now we go back to the roll call, please, for the adoption of this resolution.
Maxwell? McGuire? Mitchell? Petrie? Richards?
No.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Schwartz? Alex? Bergson? Carter? Coer? Esri? Harper? Harkey?
No.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Kibler?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes, I have 15 votes. Did I get 15? You have 14? What is the actual count?
14.
So it fails. Number 4, Mr. Alex.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of Resolution 8535, amending the schedule of authorized positions for the Champaign County State's Attorney as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. James. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I recommend adoption of Resolution Number 8536, authorizing the County Board Chair to execute an amendment to the October 2012 agreement between the Institute for Law and Policy Planning and the County of Champaign, Illinois, as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second by Ms. Coward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, adoption, I'm sorry, Chris?
I'm sorry, my fault. I move adoption of Resolution Number 8537, authorizing an agreement with Bellwether LLC to conduct a comprehensive fee review for the offices of County Clerk, Recorder, and Sheriff, as recommended by the Finance Committee.
That's A6 on the addendum 3?
No, that's
Well, I'm looking-
item number 6 on the main agenda.
Oh, okay. Second by Mr. Kibler. Any discussion? Ms. Petrie?
I I cannot support this, and the reasons I cannot support it has nothing to do with reviewing the fees, recognizing that indeed fees might indeed need to be adjusted one way or the other, has nothing to do with consultants. It has a great deal to do with item number 7. And we are about to move forward to bring on board an individual who is specifically to focus on the financial issues of the county. I see this as a financial issue of the county, and this is not an emergency. It is not something that needs to be done yesterday. I have reread the qualifications being looked for this individual. The individual can easily do a review of the fees. I have read all the statutes pertaining to the parties who have fees and might be interested in fee adjustments, and there's nothing in any of those statutes that says it has to be an outside consultant. It just has to be a well-done evaluation of the fees and the needs and the costs of the county. So it seems to make a great deal of sense that the new person who comes on board can handle this, and we don't need an outside consultant.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Division. Let's have a roll call, please, on this. Or raise hands.
I'll call division, call for division.
Call for division. Thank you, Mr. Alex. All those in favor, please raise your hand. How many? 12? Thank you. All opposed, raise your hand. Seven. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, at this point, I'm going to ask us to go to Addendum 3, Item 6, under Finance. This is adoption of Resolution Number 8566, authorizing budget transfer 13-0005 from the General Corporate Fund contingency line in the amount of $15,000 to transfer funds to pay for the contract with Bellwether LLC for the cost analysis study, and I so move.
Thank you. Can I have a second? I'm sorry. Second by Ms. Bergson. Any discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. It's roll call. 15 votes on this. My apologies.
Maxwell?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Petrie? No. Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Bergson?
Yes.
Carter?
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Cowart?
No.
Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
No.
Harkey?
Yes.
James?
No.
Jay?
Yes.
Kibler?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes. Fails. Motion fails. Thank you.
Going back to the main agenda, Mr. Chair, I move adoption of Resolution Number 8563, amending the schedule of authorized positions for Champaign County Administrative Services.
Second by Mr. Esri. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, going to Addendum Number 1, this is Item 8. I move adoption of Resolution Number 8564, relating to intergovernmental agreement regarding the Clinton landfill permit. I would note that prior to this motion being voted on, I would ask that it be amended to specify a dollar amount in the current blank line item.
Okay. Who would specify that? Me? All right, I specify 17,000 for the total cap on this, meaning we're going from 14,000 to 17,000.
Okay, for the purposes of discussion, I will include in my original motion, I will modify that to say that the dollar amount is $17,000.
Thank you. I need a second, please.
Second.
Mr. Hartke, can I have any discussion now on that?
I'd like.
Ms. Cowart. I'm sorry.
I was going to second it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll catch you the next time, I promise. Ms. Petrie? Yeah, sure. This is Mr. Joel Fletcher from the State's Attorney's Office.
The intergovernmental agreement originally contemplated a challenge to the EPA permit for the Clinton landfill. The Intergovernmental Consortium has employed outside counsel. The City of Champaign is the lead agency for monitoring the performance of outside counsel, and they are very satisfied with the performance. The project has changed somewhat in that the consortium has authorized a citizens complaint. This is a strategic decision by council. I have no problems with it. I think it's a wise choice. The other members of the consortium agree. However, that has caused the costs of the agreement to increase. I don't believe this is an unreasonable increase in light of the scope of the project. The prior resolution approving participation in the agreement set a trigger of $14,000 that would require further review by the county board. This change would take us over that amount. That's why I'm asking for the $17,000 trigger to be set. I'm quite confident at this point that we will not exceed that trigger. If we do, obviously we would come back to the county board.
Mr. Alex?
I have two questions. So just to clarify, the proposal is to raise the original cap from 14,000 to a total of 17,000.
To a total of 17,000.
Additional 3,000.
That's correct.
And how much of those fees have we spent to date?
I believe it's contemplated that we will spend 15,000, between 15 and 16,000. I don't have the to-date total. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Is this the first payment we made on this, or the second? I thought we made a payment on this a long time ago.
We have been making payments as we have been billed. Year-to-date of the original $14,000, we've been billed right under $8,000. But this is anticipating the total amount that will be spent and budgeting that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? John?
So, Joel, when I understand it, we're over the 14,000. I've heard 1,100 over, I've heard 1,600 over, but we're over. But you just said that you're anticipating, or someone's anticipating, that it'll be 15 to 16,000 total is what we'll need. So we're capping 1,000, just right at 1,000 above that.
That's correct, and that's to give us some wiggle room because we can't anticipate everything at this point. It's my understanding that we have not yet spent the original cap, but we're anticipating that we will.
Okay, because I want to clarify that because like I said, I've heard two different things tonight, and I just want to clarify the 1,100 or the 1,600. So I didn't know if we were right in the middle or if we were even around there. So, but we're anticipating to overspend that is what we're saying. We've not spent it, but we're anticipating to overspend right now.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm a little, I know the 14,000 was probably a number that was arbitrarily thrown out there by somebody who figures these, but I'm a little dubious of spending, and with the understanding this is very, very important to our communities as a whole. But I'm a little dubious that we keep these little cuts. And tonight we already spent 15 or 25,000, and we meant to spend 50. We hired somebody without paying them tonight, and and we've had a couple other little interesting anecdotal kind of things happen tonight. But I'm just concerned that it'll be over 17,000 if we just keep going and going and going up the ladder here, and I have trouble spending that extra 3,000.
I understand, and I share your concern. I asked the city of Champaign, the lead agency, about the purposes of the increase. I was assured that their estimate of between 15 and 16,000 was very firm. I added an additional 17,000 simply because I don't want to be coming back here every time there is an overrun, and I want to have a number that I'm confident we can stick with. I'm comfortable with the 17,000. Obviously, if we exceed the 17,000, we would be back before the board.
And not that I wouldn't mind seeing you back here, Mr. Fletcher, because it's a pleasure to have you back here. But yeah, for that particular reason, I would not either. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Just one more question, Mr. Fletcher, or I guess Mr. Kurtz, can you remind me how many other people we have in this boat with us?
I can, 1 minute, please.
And by people, I mean municipalities.
I understand. I believe at present we have 5 others.
And if I could follow up, how do we determine how much we all have to pay? Is it an equal share, or is it by population?
It's by population.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fletcher, 2 things quickly. One of the items are in here, it says if we decide not to do this, that we would have to determine pretty quickly to opt out of this entire agreement. Is it all or nothing at this point? Are we out of the relationship with the other counties if we decide not to do this, even though we've already paid 14,000?
I believe we would have to. I believe we would have to make a decision about whether to continue as a member of the consortium, and we'd have to negotiate with the other parties our current status. I think I can't tell you that the entire relationship would end immediately if we said no, but we would have to negotiate a different relationship with the other party.
And can you mentioned that things have changed, it's kind of matured or changed into something else. From the inception to now, how has it changed to warrant the additional funds? And what will it be used for? What will the additional funds be used for?
It's my understanding that the original plan was to challenge the EPA permit of the Clinton landfill. The council we have hired has evaluated the case and determined that it was appropriate to also file a citizen's complaint. The county is currently a party to that citizen's complaint. That change in strategy has caused an increase in cost. It's a one-time change in strategy. I don't think this is going to be an ongoing pattern of mission creep, if you want to call it that. I also understand that the outside counsel has elicited and been an effective advocate in eliciting the assistance of the Attorney General's office. That's also caused an increase in costs, but again, I don't anticipate that being an ongoing source of increased costs.
Well, not really a question, but probably a comment on what Jeff just asked. If that would be the case, that if we didn't pass this and we may have to drop out or basically eat the money we've already put into it because that would be gone, what happens, and I hear what you're saying, but I hear this all the time when we start doing these contracts, we okay this, and then 6 months from now, and I know no one's got a crystal ball, nobody can predict the future, but that's why I'm against when we start a contract and we say this is a firm amount and here's the parameters. I at times think that we're no better than some of the other representatives that are in the state that keep spending money. We need to cut it off at the knees, and so I'm not going to support this.
Mr. Fletcher, just for clarification, we have an original agreement where we guaranteed that we would contribute up to $14,000, and that was our cap. And we would still be committed to that, and we have not spent nearly that full amount at this point. We've spent just under $8,000, I believe, up to this point. So if the county board chose not to approve this amendment tonight, they would simply be saying that they're not going to contribute anything above the original $14,000. Is that not correct? And that the other entities would then have to assume responsibility for more than what is their pro rata share for that additional expense?
No, I don't believe that's correct. I believe that the $14,000 cap was not a term of the original agreement. It was something that we added to the resolution approving the agreement, which would require the matter to be brought back before the county board so that the county board can make a determination as to whether to exercise its rights to withdraw from the agreement. So at this point, we are a participant in this agreement. We are obliged to pay the costs of participating in the agreement. Our options at this point are to continue to participate in the agreement or to withdraw from the agreement, not to participate in the agreement up to the cap.
But we have not yet expended the full $14,000 that we committed to.
That is correct.
All right, before I speak, Mr. Alex.
I guess I would ask for a clarification on that. Have we encumbered the full $14,000 cap?
No, we have not.
Okay, so it's not that we just haven't got the bills yet. We haven't actually incurred those expenses yet.
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Ms. Petrie.
I need to question your interpretation because my memory, when Joe Hooker was before us, and I specifically asked him several questions, one of those questions was about the $14,000 because I do share Mr. James' concerns, and that was an open-ended amount at that time. And Joe Hooker answered the question that that was a best guess at that time. And the hope was that there would be more entities coming on board, and that indeed would work across the board, because the more people, the less it would be costing us amortized over the group. And he also said that if they didn't use that up, the differential would be returned to the various entities. So my takeaway from that conversation with Joe Hooker was that we were in this up to our amount of $14,000. If at that point, the next county board, because that was the previous board that made this commitment, if this present county board then said $14,000 is all we are interested in spending, should they come forward, as is the case here, to increase the amount, then we've done our bid up to $14,000, and at that juncture, this present board chooses not to continue. So somewhere, I must be having some slippage in my understanding of this.
That's not my understanding of the agreement. My understanding of the agreement is that we, as a county board, in approving the agreement, added a condition requiring the matter to be brought back before the county board if we exceeded the $14,000 threshold. The $14,000 threshold was not a term of the agreement. It was a trigger that would bring the matter back before the county board for the county board to consider whether to continue its participation or to exercise its right to terminate its participation in the agreement.
Well, then I lean to what Ms. Busey said. We have $14,000 in the pot, according to her accounting. We've been billed for slightly less, so we have roughly $6,000 left in the pot. So we haven't reached that threshold, so I'm not clear then why we're getting this resolution at this juncture.
We're getting this resolution at this juncture because at this point, we anticipate the billing to the county to exceed the $14,000 threshold. No, that's our current estimate of what the billing will be. It will not happen tomorrow.
Ms. Petrie, you're correct. That's why my understanding was. But Mr. Fletcher's right. It was not put into the resolution, what you and I heard. So you are correct what you heard, but it was not put in the form of this resolution, that there would be more parties involved in this, and the money would be a big enough pot that we probably wouldn't reach the 14,000 threshold. But that's unfortunately not how the resolution is read, so.
That if we proceed
No, and I apologize because I think I may have made this less clear, made this unclear. The purpose of the resolution is to do two things. The consortium has already filed the citizens' complaint. There is some issue as to whether it was within the scope of the original agreement. I think it's a minor issue. I think there's a strong and credible argument that it was within the scope of the original agreement. It was just an unanticipated growth in that cost. But to avoid any legal ambiguity, I suggested ratifying the decision by the county board, just so it's not even an issue.
I didn't hear much of what you said to contradict my question. This is doing two things, right? It's both acknowledging the standard scope
Right.
of what the consortium is doing, and it is increasing capital.
That's correct.
Thank you. I'm going to pass the baton, so to speak, to Mr. Schroeder as the vice chair, and I'd like permission to speak on this issue.
Mr. Kurtz, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, I've been sitting here all night very quiet. Had I not been the chair, you would have heard from me on a number of different issues tonight. The first one is telling one of our elected officials, our county elected officials, duly elected by this county, that we can't allow her to do her job. Allow her to change over people who need to be trained for a job that is one of the most important jobs we have in the recorder's office. What's that?
Mr. Kurtz, would you please
I know.
stick to the motion,
I know.
please?
I know. I know.
I know you want to vent. You can pass the, actually,
I'm gonna have
Mr.
to
Kurtz.
pass it,
you can-
3 or 4
you can
times here
step
before
down
this
when-
is over.
When we get to other business, you can step down
Yeah,
the chair, and you can vent all you want. That'd be fine.
Well, I'm
So,
venting right now.
please.
So let me vent about this.
Please stay
this
on the
issue,
subject.
okay? We started this for one reason. 800,000 people drink water out of Muhammad Aquifer. We have been fighting with this company to keep PCBs out of this landfill. And we sit here tonight worried about a cap for $3,000. What's going on here tonight? Stop looking at the little dollars and look at the vision and the future of what we're talking about. We're talking about 88 municipalities. We're talking about your family and my family and the future of our children and grandchildren when PCBs are thrown up on the top of the Muhammad Aquifer. For $3,000, which will be returned to us if we don't exceed that limit, the difference is, we're going to sit here and worry about $3,000 a pittance when we have such a big issue? I'm sorry. It's time for somebody to say something because we're looking at a small issue when we should be looking at the big issue. And the big issue here is the safety of our drinking water in perpetuity for our community. And that's how I feel about it, and won't let me talk about the other issue, but I'll get to that eventually.
You will.
So,
Okay, I'll return the chair back
thank
to
you very
Mr.
much. I
Kurtz.
appreciate it. Any other discussion? Mr. Carter.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not against, the project, but this is where I asked the question. I thought we voted to do that a year ago. It came up in the money, I thought we approved the money for this. And what happened? Yet today it hasn't been done. I thought the project was done and over with. So that was my question. I know it's been up 2 or 3 times before. And we voted to let that process go through. So I don't know why it's coming back now unfinished.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any other discussion on this issue? Ms. Petrie.
Mr. Fletcher, please again. Thank you. I'm trying to read the previous one that we voted on, and you were pointing out to me that in the previous one, the previous board, we did not see to it that we covered ourselves well enough for this kind of situation coming up.
I don't think that's exactly what I said. It's my understanding that the prior resolution set a $14,000 threshold, and when we anticipated we would reach that threshold, the matter would be brought back before the board, so the board can make a determination as to whether to continue to participate in the agreement, and that's why we're here tonight.
Okay, but it says if the request for additional funding is not approved by the board at that time, the county board shall then elect to whether to serve its 45-day notice. We have 45 days to notice to our intent. So does this need to be decided tonight, or would it be dilatory if this gets tabled until our July meeting?
The 45-day notice starts the termination of our participation in the intergovernmental agreement. That's the notice we give to the other parties to the agreement that we're terminating our participation. It's not 45 days for us to wait. It's 45 days after we give this notice before that termination becomes effective.
All right, any further discussion? Mr. Maxwell, we haven't heard from you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very important issue, probably as important an issue as will come before us, considering the number of folks that do live in this area and the Muhammad Aquifer and how important it is. I think it's a shame that more municipalities have not joined with our efforts. It really is. 88 out, we've got 5 out of 88. This is, I really think that other folks ought to get involved. Be that said, I'm going to support it. I think we've got a critical resource we have to protect. So thank you.
I'll be brief, Mr. Chairman. I don't quite have your passion, but I do believe that this is probably one of the most important issues that will ever come before this board. When you stop and think about all the people that draw out of that aquifer, I will support it. We've thrown away a lot of money here in the last few months. This is a pittance on a much, much bigger project than what we've been hassling over.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire? Yes. Mitchell? Petrie? Yes. Richards? Yes. Rosales? Yes. Schrader? Yes. Schwartz? Yes. Alex? Yes. Bergson? Yes. Carter? Yes. Cowart? Yes. Esri? Yes. Harper? Yes. Hartkey? Yes. James? No. Jay? Yes. Kibler?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kurtz. Kurtz?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've got 5 items tonight. They're kind of intermixed. The first 3 is what is on your page now. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, then we'll go to the pink sheet and then the addendum number 2. So let's start with number 1. The committee recommends adoption of resolution number 8538, authorizing the appointment of Andrew Kornstrom to the Public Aid Appeals Committee for an unexpired term ending 11/30/2013, and I so move.
Second. Second by Mr. Hartkey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Wonderful. Number 2 is the committee recommends adoption of resolution 8539, authorizing the appointment of Michelle Mayol as the alternate on the Public Aid Appeals Committee for unexpired term ending 11/30/2014, and I so move.
Second, please. Howard. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The committee recommends adoption of resolution 8540, increasing the number of members for the board and for care and treatment of persons with a developmental disability, and I so move.
Can I have a second, please? Mr. Maxwell. Any discussion? Mr. Richards.
I oppose this in committee, but I've been assured that the food fight that's been going on for grant funding on the Developmental Disabilities Board is not going to be affected by these two new positions, and that these positions will not be weighing in on that. And so that being said, I still have concerns about doing the public's business in open, but I will be voting for this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Schroeder?
Yeah, I also voted against this in committee, but I will support it now. My question, well, actually a couple questions, and one of them that I found out was incorporating more diversity on that board is going to help it tremendously, and I believe it will, from the comments I've heard and the people I've talked to. Secondly, the only problem I've had, and Mr. Richards talked on that, was the Open Meetings Act. I've served 14 years on, well, 4 years on the Forest Reserve Board and 10 years on ZBA, and I can tell you there's not one time where that I couldn't talk to another board member outside of board. The only thing we didn't talk about was board issues that were in front of us or board issues that were going to come in front of the committees. That's the only two things that really you can't talk about. And I know there's a lot of discussion about how with 3 members, 2 members can't get together and talk or anything. And once you're on that board, that's what you should be talking about on that board is that right there, that subject. Because I can tell you, I've been out with board members before after meetings. We didn't want to talk about anything anymore other than our families or favorite food dishes or whatever. We were tired, but that's what we did. We spent the whole time on that board talking about what was important in that board. We kept it in the public. So I hope that gets clarified for the board. But with that said, like I said, I'll go ahead and support it.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this issue? Mr. Carter?
I agree with you, and I don't see the benefit of you making a law where you can't conduct your business. And it's getting that way. If you can't talk about your business, how are you going to ever solve your problem? And it's just ridiculous. This last ordinance that came from, I don't know where it came from, Springfield or whatever, but they missed that deal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carter.
They messed it up.
Any other discussion on this issue? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's move on to, let's go with the pink paper. It's in front of you. It's something that was pulled off the consent agenda earlier. There was just some corrections made to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that the committee recommends adoption of Resolution 8560, the resolution appointing Marlene Cherry to the Stern Cemetery Board, and I so move.
I have a second by Mr. James. Any discussion? What's that? Oh, it was Alex. You sound the same. Oh, Mr. Alex, second. It's the hair, yes. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Great. And our final item for tonight from policy is the addendum 2. It's item 13B4 in your original agenda. The committee recommends adoption of Resolution 8565 appointing Brian Rona to the Public Aid Appeals Committee, term ending 11/30/2013, and I so move.
Second by Mr. Mitchell. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kibler. What's that? I'm sorry. And, oh, you have other business? Before other business, okay. Any other business? Turn on your microphone, please, Astrid.
I want you all to remember you all have only 1 week. The task force report will be available on the county website bright and early Monday morning, and I hope in all of your email boxes, and I hope you'll all have read it 3 times before Thursday.
Ms. Bergson, it will be emailed to all county board members before the end of business tomorrow, so you will all have an electronic version over the weekend.
Oh,
Excellent.
good.
Good job. Okay, now we go to new business.
Mr. Chair, if there's no other business, I would like to make a closed session motion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I may, I'd like to ask, see, he gone. No, he isn't. I'd like to ask, Mr. Tracy a question right quick.
I'm sorry, it's out of order, Mr. Carter, at this point.
Well, this is what I'm saying. We need to change our policy. When you had him sitting there, if I was allowed to do it, it'd be over with.
He was there. He was available to you if you
Well,
needed him.
you've been calling us down when you have, oh, man. What in the world going on with this board?
Do we want to suspend the rules at this point?
Mr. Kurtz, I move we suspend the rules to allow Mr. Carter to ask Mr. Tracy a question.
Thank you. A second by Mr. Richards. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Tracy, would you please
And
take
we
the
need to
chair?
change that policy.
We're changing it
Mr.
right now
Chairman.
for you to ask a question, Mr. Carter.
I'm trying to serve the people, but you prohibit me from doing
I'm
it.
not. I'm doing it right now. Ask a question.
I had a meeting with Mr. Tracy about mental health, and I wanted to ask him. I gave him a list that I received from the gentleman that was here and went back and got a list of the places that supposed to have been in agreement of serving the mental health illness folks. And I gave it to you.
Right.
So what happened?
Well, you called me, and I called you back and left a message. We haven't gotten together. We're still continuing to work. This has to do with the mental health and criminal justice interface, that the population that, that we have been working on, and we're in the process now of, we have community elements and Prairie Center are working with the sheriff's office at this point and his staff at the jail. And they are putting together recommendations for our contracts that will have to do with diversion of people that have mental illness from the jail. And then anybody who has a mental illness that gets into the jail, the other thing will be they'll be tracking them and making sure that they're linked when they're discharged from custody so that they get treatment. And there are a number of other things that are involved, and I'll be happy to continue our conversation, Mr. Carter, any time and brief you on where we are on that, but it's still in process, and we haven't finished the contracts yet, but we will be.
Okay, so is it possible we don't send any more to jail?
Well, I think that there are two sides to this. We're trying to set up some mental health services that will divert people from the jail. And that would include doing intensive case management with people that are the high flyer population that Dr. Kalmanoff talks about. That would be the people that have multiple admissions to the jail. So the idea is to do case management with those people, to try to work up plans in advance so that if they do come on the radar screen or come in contact with law enforcement, that they would be diverted. We're looking at using the hospital. There's a community resource center that they're talking about creating at the, I've forgotten what Covenant is now called, but they've changed their name, but at what used to be Covenant Hospital. So we want to divert, but I think that it's very possible that people could end up in jail that have mental health issues or substance use issues. And for those people, they will be served in the jail, and when they leave, they will be linked to services.
Well, my district is really heated up about putting mental people in jail. It don't serve the purpose, really.
No, we agree with you.
So I'm going to let it go tonight, but I will be back in touch with you.
I would love to have that conversation. I enjoyed it
All
last
right,
time we talked.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Carter, do you have anything else on your agenda tonight? Okay. And I promise you in the future, we will recognize you for questions and answers. You're very welcome. Mr. Allen.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to 5 LCS 120/2C11 to consider litigation which is pending against Champaign County. I further move that the following individuals remain present: the county's legal counsel, the county administrator, and the recording secretary.
Thank you. I need a roll call.
Second, need a second first.
Mr. Fletcher?
May I ask that the motion be,
A second, Mr. Esri.
may I ask that the motion be amended to allow the zoning administrator to remain present?
Yes, I so amend my motion to include the zoning administrator be asked during the
Okay, and second by Mr. Esri on that. I'll need a roll call, please.
Maxwell? McGuire? Mitchell? Petrie? Richards? Rosales? Schrader? Schwartz? Alex? Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri? Harper? Hartke? James? Jay? Kibler? Kurtz?
Yes. Thank you. We're going to adjourn to the Putnam Room. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn since there are no other business other than this closed session tonight. So I don't want to have to keep anybody sitting here. What's that? No, we're going to move out of here into the Putnam Room. We're going to the Putnam Room for closed session. I'd like a motion to adjourn, please. So moved by Mr. James. This-
You are adjourning.
It's out of
We are
order.
adjourning to closed session. Okay, I want to make that clear. We're adjourning
You
to
can
closed
announce
session.
that we do not intend to conduct any more business after
That's
we come
correct.
back, but we are in closed session, so you
Correct.
can't move to
That
adjourn.
is correct. We're going into the Putnam Room. I hope there's enough seats.